Guys, we're about to do a podcast about whiskey, and it's supposed to be about retirement. So I guess the whole idea here is we can prepare for retirement by sipping whiskey. I mean, what are we gonna do here? Everyone's calling up for financial advice.
Yeah. I would say maybe when you're having your long thoughts about retirement, you sip some whiskey. Yeah.
Welcome to Arise Retirement Podcast. I am your host, Casey Smith. Today's special episode, we are switching it up and talking about whiskeys to gift in 2023. I'm joined by whiskey enthusiast Robert Swarthout and Noland Glenn. Hey, guys.
What's going on?
Howdy.
So we decided to do this because I feel like there are whiskeys everywhere. I mean, you walk into a men's store now and they have at least 3 bottles of whiskey for tasting while you shop. I guess they're trying to do the whole wine thing with like the women have, but there's all kinds of books that you see out there, little tidbits.
Soap.
That's whiskey soap. That's you can bathe in it.
Yes.
So we have all these whiskey things out there, and I'm thinking, man, it's like how many dads, granddads are getting bad gifts, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought, hey, why don't we have, I know you guys are big in the whiskey. Robert has been very gracious to let me ride his coattails at his monthly whiskey tasting at his home. In fact, that's the only whiskey bottles I own, Robert, the ones I'm required to bring to the party.
Yeah, I guess. Congratulations, I guess.
Right. Yeah. My favorite night was the mixed drink night because I was like, man, these actually taste good. But no, I've learned so much about it through the process because Robert has themes. And so you bring a theme. Let's see, what would you sneak into the Masters, right? And that's where I found Clover.
Clover, yep. That's,
which is not on our list, but I did like it.
Yeah, that's by the grandson of Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones, that's right.
Yes.
It has Bobby Jones on the front cover, actually, so that makes sense. So I thought, man, we could do a bonus podcast for our listeners toward the holidays, and we could focus on different categories of whiskey.
Yep. And we should be clear, this is American whiskey, not Irish or Scotch whiskey.
Yes, that's very true.
Very different.
That's very
Big
true.
difference.
So maybe we should start there. How do you know when you should be gifting whiskey and when you should not be gifting whiskey? I mean, the question probably has to be, hey, I saw a bottle of whiskey in their cabinet. They must like whiskey, or there's been a conversation, I guess.
I've defaulted to always gifting whiskey.
I agree.
People get wine all the time. This is just, it's
very
thoughtful
true.
and it's different, right? At the end of the day, if they don't drink it, oh well, but it's different. So.
All right. Well, I'll add, stay tuned to the end. I'll add a situational gifting questions for you guys, and you can help the listeners understand when to be gifting which bottle that we're going to cover today. But we're going to have 3 categories: less than $50, between $50 and $100, and then bottles that are just over $100. And I will add that, I've tasted some whiskeys in the past, and I've like, oh man, I actually really like this one. I'll order it. And I order everything online that I can because I hate going to the store. If you shop online for liquor, oh my gosh, things are super expensive. So it could be that you look up these prices and they don't match in our category. But if you go to your local supplier, most likely you'll have something in these categories.
And you got to be real careful trying to buy online too, because obviously you can get ripped off. You can potentially get sold something that's fake if you're trying to go after something a little bit more hard to get.
Yeah.
So, but there's websites that are like, when I order something online, a lot of times I'm giving it to somebody else, and I don't live in their city, for instance. So I will use Drizzly. It's a great little app that I believe Uber owns it, but it connects to local bottle shops in their area, and then they will do the delivery of it. So you are more likely to be getting something at, slightly more fair prices, and, with a bit of a guarantee that it's probably not fake. So.
This is a great episode to watch on a Wiser Retirement YouTube channel because we're going to have pictures of all this. This is all video recorded. All of our podcasts are video recorded. But we'll have, you'll be able to see the actual bottle, maybe capture a screenshot to make sure you're getting the right thing. So let's get started. You guys wanted to start with a glass.
A Glencairn glass.
Glencairn.
It's a bit of a teardrop shape.
Okay.
And it's all about, the proper way to smell a whiskey, whether it's, American and or Scotch. but it's a it's a nice cheap. You can get them, I think, on Amazon for a set of them for like of 6, I believe they come, and maybe $20, $20-$30. They're pretty cheap.
So the base is wider, allows you to swish it around,
swirl it,
bottom of a wine glass.
Yep. And, and some people like the shape of the bottom because they'll put it in their hand around it to warm it up a little bit sometimes. So do different things. But yes, it's a great way to properly taste nose and taste a whiskey.
All right, let's get started. This is our less than 50 category. We have 3 choices, and I'll let you guys start.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll start with the Elijah Craig small batch. This one runs about $30 here in the Atlanta area. It's a bourbon. Some of the things you may smell when you're nosing it is complex notes of vanilla bean, sweet fruit, and fresh mint.
That's a good bourbon, I think, for maybe somebody that hasn't gotten into bourbon or they're just getting into it. It's a good default. Something that's easy to drink, whether they're super into it or not. And the taste on that one, it's smooth and warm, pleasantly woody with accents of spice, smoke, and nutmeg as well.
I definitely favor the whiskeys that have a smooth taste to it, not one that feels like your throat's on fire.
Yeah. Well,
so this is not that category.
It's not that category, and that's largely going to come from proof.
Okay.
You could get that in a rye, but largely it's the ethanol that's going to burn you and kind of give you that hug.
Mm-hmm. You call it a hug. I call it calling the fire department. All right, so this is 94 proof.
94 proof, yeah. And
I thought that was on the higher end, no?
Nah,
it was like 120.
Generally, you don't see American bourbons below 90.
Okay, all right. So it says they're the father of bourbon.
Elijah Craig. It's a well-known brand. And maybe we should have said up front of this category, all 3 of these we'll talk about in the below 50, you probably can find at most bottle shops. Mm-hmm. As we kind of go up, it's probably a little bit more challenging. But this one is, easy to find. In the finish, you've got it in your mouth, and the flavor's going away, and it's probably going to be long, sweet, and slightly toasty.
Mm-hmm.
Robert's last birthday, your wife is like, the best wife ever. Got Fred Minnick. We'll talk about him in a minute, but got Fred Minnick to do a tasting. And before, I just tasted it. I mean, I'm not a foodie. I'd eat the same chicken salad sandwich every day if they served it to me and not think twice about it. But after talking to him and about finish and taste and aroma, it like totally changes how you think about it, or just your experience when you drink whiskey.
Yeah.
He's like, I taste almonds, or someone at the party said they tasted cotton candy.
Yeah. I mean, some weird, it's all about, a different portions of your tongue. You will taste it in different places than I might.
Right.
And that's something that I learned during that tasting with Fred is, some people taste it more on the tip of their tongue, some on the side and some on the back. And, it finishes in different places for either people, but, cotton candy or, I remember one of the bourbons we were tasting at that, in my birthday, then it was he talked about, that you might get a taste or a finish of fresh bread. And to me, it was a sourdough bread.
Interesting.
Very distinct. Yeah. So, versus a salted bread or something like that. So,
all right. Our next one, Four Roses single barrel.
This one, when you're nosing it, you're going to get hints of ripe plum and cherries. This is a very consistent bourbon. You're going to get, no surprises generally out of this one. This one will also, this distiller a lot of times will put which rickhouse and barrel on the front of it, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this just happens to be 10-2E in a warehouse PN. So warehouse being a rickhouse. And, a lot of times the whiskey groups online will find out that, oh my gosh, this combination of things is doing incredibly well. People are loving the taste of it, and people will go hunting for
that one bottle.
For this one bottle, it was maybe barrel or a particular rickhouse on a certain year. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty crazy how serious some people can get. I don't go that far personally, but it's I will go hunting for different bourbons, but not just for a particular bottle of a
right
of one. So
right. Now, Nolan, you said before we started recording, you said that this one was a good one for people who don't drink bourbon normally.
That one, I mean, both of them, that one and the Elijah Craig, that one I believe is a little bit higher proof point. I think it's over 100.
It's right at 100.
And so, yeah, it's going to, be a little denser, but, certain people who may not be accustomed to drinking bourbon or other whiskeys, it potentially could be a little hot, but most of those single barrels are usually very smooth and have, great flavors in them. It's a favorite of mine. I usually keep one on the shelf.
Yeah, that's right at the $50 price point. Elijah Craig small batch, which we just talked about, was $30 on the price point. Next one is the Basil Hayden Dark Rye, $40 is the price point.
And yeah, it's a $40 rye, but it's going to drink like a bourbon. This one is rather sweet to be a rye. It's probably just 51% rye, be my guess, if we knew that mash bill. But a bit of a story behind this one is it's very cherry in color, because when they finish aging this bourbon, they age it in port wine barrels, and they'll leave about 5% of the wine in the barrel, dump the bourbon in, and it kind of gets the sugars that were there from the grapes.
Was that the one they were saying is the easiest to drink of the three?
I think it's, of anything up here,
okay,
probably anything that I have at the house is probably the easiest to drink. And, if I'm doing a tasting with a couple that's over for dinner, almost with 100% certainty, I can say this is going to be the favorite like a woman might like to drink, because a lot of times they don't like the heat. They don't like the super high spice.
Right.
But this is, you literally can pour this over ice and it's going to taste like a Manhattan in a glass.
All right. So I got my story wrong. So Basil Hayden Dark Rye is what you want.
That's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
I recently had it and I was blown away, and I'm going to put one on my shelf very, very soon. It's great.
Yep. So, if you're nosing that one, you're going to get oaky notes balanced with dark berries and molasses.
I like the taste. Caramel, dried fruit, oak notes of spice. And then the finish
on it. Yeah. The finish is, pretty long with dried fruit, hints of sweetness, and a little bit of that rye spice.
All right, so shifting gears a bit, let's come back to Fragmentics. So this is a book that was given to us at Robert's birthday party by Fred, signed by him, which is pretty cool. But it's called Bourbon Curious, a tasting guide for the savvy drinker with tasting notes for dozens of new bourbons, second edition. And it has obviously updates throughout over the first edition. So for someone that's getting into whiskeys or bourbons, I'd say this is definitely for the bourbon nerd, because he goes into very deep into some of these things, but also good to know, learn how they do things.
You can get that on Amazon.
Yep, we'll add a link to it in the show notes, so you can buy that book yourself. All right, so let's hop into the between $50 and $100 category. Robert, I'll let you start us off.
Yep. We're going to go with the Knob Creek Single Barrel Bourbon. It's $60. Obviously, it's a bourbon, and if you're nosing this one, you're going to get something that's very sweet, brown sugar, caramel, apple, and toffee.
The taste on this one, it's rich and creamy sweetness, a little bit of higher proof at about 120 proof or 60%. And you're also going to get vanilla, maple syrup, and some brown sugar. This single barrel particularly is one of my favorites. I really, really enjoy Knob Creek.
And then the finish is advertised as hot, long-lasting cinnamon, oak, and leather.
I mean, part of the hot's going to be certainly coming from that 120 proof. And if that's not your favorite thing, and you get this bottle, put it on ice. Mm-hmm. That's going to really knock it down. Drop some water in it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
because you're diluting it.
Well, even if you're just cooling it, say you put it in a cold, glass.
Yeah.
And just let it chill. That'll bring it down some. Put some more ice in it, bring it down. And then obviously as the ice melts, it's going to dilute it a little bit. And that's certainly a way to do it. If you don't like it cold and you just want to put some water in it, totally fine.
I'll just start bringing my cooler and ice to whiskey night. keep up with the professionals a little easier. All right, what's next, Nolan?
The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof coming in at about $80. The aroma on this one is caramel with toasted oat, fruit notes of apple and orange as well.
So it's interesting. You go to the store, you see Oh, Elijah Craig, that's the one that was on the less than 50 list. If you know nothing about this. So you have to pay attention to the bottle.
So
right.
This literally could be this out of the same barrel. It's not. But, this one that we're talking about now is barrel proof, meaning it's literally the same proof it came out of the barrel. And we don't necessarily have that in our notes. Let me look it up.
One's the cheaper one's called the small batch, and this one on the front says Elijah Craig
barrel proof. And this
barrel proof, but it's in the exact same bottle.
Exact same bottle, literally just with different subtitle on it. It's 124 proof. So this one was aged 11 years. This one's probably aged longer than the first one we talked about, but it's definitely higher proof. So it's gonna give you that hug that you don't like.
I guess Weller does the same thing, though. I mean, Weller has the same bottle for most of theirs. It's just change the label.
Absolutely. And most brands do.
Yeah. The Blue Run does too, I guess.
Blue Run will change, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but they'll change the color of the butterfly.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So we also in the between 50 and 100, we have a Willet 4-year rye, around $75 a barrel should be a reasonable price.
Yeah. If you're smelling this one, you get floral, it's botanical, sweet scents, plenty of caramel apple maybe, caramel popcorn, burnt coffee.
On the taste side of that one, you're going to get some raisin, maybe a little bit of menthol and spices, green tea notes, and somewhat of a medicinal taste, as well as light cherry and some citrus.
And then finishing with more botanical notes and slight spices. So.
This rye is definitely probably a more out of the lane than anything that we're talking about here. Those botanical notes, those, the menthol, it's different, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
It comes in it's like a wine bottle.
Yeah, a more traditional shaped bottle.
Yeah.
Some people might think you're bringing wine.
Yeah.
Other than the color.
I'm going to say the color should tip them off pretty
much.
much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we get to the above 100 category, we have this bourbon nosing kit. Robert Nolan, why don't you walk us through why would we buy this?
Yeah, so this particular kit, we'll put the link in the show notes, but looks like a tackle box with individual compartments, and inside each small container within it is, there's some mint, there's some brown sugar, there's chocolate, honey, just to name a few. The whole idea is, as you're nosing a bourbon, you're like, oh man, what is that? What am I smelling? Well, maybe you're smelling the vanilla. You're smelling some caramel. You could put you can smell these individual containers, be like, yeah, or maybe it's the mint, So to help you try to train your nose to help you understand what you're perceiving.
So you can create your own book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of these at home, and I really enjoy using it. If I've heard a lot about a bourbon or somebody gives me something and I try it for the first time, I'll drink a little bit of it straight out of the bottle, maybe drop a little bit of water into it, and then use this to really kind of pick apart what I'm smelling or tasting in it. And it really just helps develop the experience of trying something new. It's a great gift.
Yep.
So in preschool, you guys were scratching and sniffing, and now you're pouring and smelling. Is that
pretty much
full circle, right?
It's full circle.
So you can get this online, and I think that's around $70.
And that's made locally.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, he's up in Canton, I believe, and he makes this.
All right. All right. Moving into the greater than $100 range. We don't get crazy expensive. I think the most expensive one we have here is $250.
Retail.
Right, it's true, retail. Let's start with the Blue Run Golden Rye, $110 a barrel.
Yeah, so you were asking about this Blue Run a minute ago. Blue Run is a brand that's trying to be different, in a good way, in my opinion. They're not trying to act 100 years old. They're not trying to, trick you. The story is some Facebook money got together with a Nike designer. They came up with this. There's literally a butterfly in the front of these bottles. Right. Each release has got a different color of the butterfly. They contracted with Jim Rutledge to be their master distiller, and he helps them select barrels, and they make a lot of great stuff. So this one that we have is the Golden Rye. If I'm going somewhere and I want to take bourbon with me to share with other people, and I know that likely it's going to get finished there, I will take the Golden Rye.
Okay.
It is amazing flavor, in my opinion. If you're nosing that, you're going to get freshly baked bread, cinnamon, vanilla bean, and slight hints of oak.
And it should taste like light rye So grain, spices, vanilla, charred oak, dried raisin.
The finish on it is going to be oak, vanilla, some rice spice, cinnamon, and leather. And I enjoy the marketing on this bottle. It's unique when you're looking at everything on the wall, maybe trying to pick something. It's easy to pick out the butterfly. I don't think I've ever seen a butterfly on a bourbon bottle, but it's pretty cool. Cool bottle shape and unique marketing.
Is there a particular color butterfly that everyone's looking for?
They do have what they call chosen right now, and those are almost like a matte blue.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's like a barrel shop. A bottle shop does a barrel pick.
Yeah.
My brother recently got one, and Hilton Head sent it to me.
Oh, wow.
You don't see them at many shops. So if that is a $250 bottle.
Yeah.
But it's delicious. So.
All right, number 2 in our category, Eagle Rare 17, or anything from the Buffalo Antique Collection. Explain.
Yes. So, you might hear the acronym BTAC, so Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Each year, Buffalo Trace, the distillery, releases 5 different bourbons in their antique collection. They are, range from the Eagle Rare 17 to bourbons and kind of just make it up. Generally, there's 5. I'll say some years they don't release one and it'll just be 4 or 3 potentially. But it's a rather sought after thing. You don't necessarily buy them as a set. If you see them as a set, you're going to spend some money to buy them. You're going to spend thousands of dollars, to be very clear. Mm-hmm. These will... MSRP is $100. I don't think I've ever seen one at MSRP besides maybe in a raffle.
Oh, wow.
So you got to get lucky to effectively. And, if you're buying this quote unquote on the secondary or at a bottle shop that has it on the shelf, you can buy it. You're going to spend $500 to $700
at least.
Yes, at least potentially over $1,000 for this Eagle Rare 17. Mm-hmm. So, and I guess we should note, so this is Eagle Rare 17. They also release just a normal Eagle Rare. It's around a 10-year. Mm-hmm. That's around $100, $75 to $100 normally. That's not the one we're talking about here, but don't get them confused.
Yeah.
You should have a toasted sugar smell, white peppercorn, and oak.
On the taste, you're going to get vanilla, creme brulee, some tart apple, cinnamon syrup, and hints of some dark fruit as well.
Yeah. And this one, you'll get an oak finish with a little bit maybe peppercorn, dry leather, and some vanilla.
Next on our list is the Weller 12-year, $250. I guess that's retail. We did bourbon.
Yeah. So this is one of the examples we were talking about earlier of a distillery using the same bottle shape for different releases. Mm-hmm. This is a black label, to be very clear, the 12-year. If you're nosing that, you're going to get rich vanilla, sweet caramel, and oak.
The taste, you're going to get thick butteriness, oak notes, warm caramel, and vanilla.
And then the finish is going to be pecan caramel and a faint red fruit note.
Yeah, these, whether it's the Weller or the one right before that, the Eagle Rare, they're going to have long finishes. Mm-hmm.
Weller was all the rage for a while, but that wasn't the 12-year. It was like the special edition, I think.
It's the special edition or special reserve.
Special reserve.
It's the green label. It's
which is like $25, I think.
If you're lucky, 25 to 50.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We could have potentially put that in our lower category. The problem is you only can find it sporadically.
Yeah, true. But I'm just saying, don't be confused. You're looking for a label that has 12.
Yeah, and it's black.
And it's black, yeah.
And it's a black label. Yeah. Exactly. So any other comments on those? Good? We covered it? Mm-hmm. So I have some questions for you guys. So you have situations in which require you to take a bottle of whiskey as a gift. So let's set people up for success here. So you are the boyfriend going to meet the hopefully future father-in-law, mm-hmm. who you're pretty sure likes whiskey. You've been told that anyway.
Okay.
Which one do you take?
I'm going to take my Blue Run. The
Blue Run?
The Blue Run Golden.
Blue Run Golden. Okay.
Yes. Can I have the same answer? Is that allowed?
Yes, it is. Yes. No rules, only questions. All right. So if you're in that situation, you're going to go ask for her hand in marriage, show up with a Blue Run butterfly bottle. And,
and I think you can't go wrong with taking any bourbon. I think the reason why I'm choosing the Blue Run is because you can tell a story. It's not just here. Let's set this,
right?
And maybe there's a serious conversation that's going to be had in place of the storytelling here. But it's
that's true. Yeah,
But
do
it's
take the
something.
time to learn
Yes.
the story, and that always makes the gift that much better on the receiving end for sure.
And it helps that the bourbon's really, really good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't do what I did one time and take a bottle of wine to a client's house who runs an AA program.
Yeah.
Be very careful that you read the room on that front. Which to be true, I don't think I knew that. I'm pretty sure I didn't know that.
Give yourself the benefit.
It wasn't
of the
noted
doubt.
anywhere,
Yeah.
but I was like, but he saved me. He's like, but my wife drinks all the time. All right. So what about a situation where you screwed up? What's the best I'm sorry bottle?
I might pick the Elijah Craig barrel proof. That's a, it's middle of the road, but it's unique. It can be, they only do a couple releases per year.
Yeah.
And it's packed full of flavor, and it's a personal favorite. So it's easy to pick that one.
All right. We screwed up and made Nolan mad. If you work for Nolan. Hint, hint.
I guess it depends on how big of a screw up it was. That's true. I might go with the Weller 12 year, or, if it's, just something simple, maybe the dark rye Basil Hayden, because anyone can drink that.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Make it easy.
I don't want to fire them up.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. What about a situation where we're just buddies getting together? What do we take into the campfire?
I'm going to go with the Willet.
Okay.
Something a little different. I tend to skew towards ryes.
Yeah.
So that's where I go.
I might take the Knob Creek single barrel. That one's, especially outside by a fire, it's got a little bit of that higher proof. It's not a bad choice.
Okay. Good. After a long day's work, just sitting at home, watching the game.
It's not on the list, so my default is a 15-year Whistle Pig. That is my default. A single barrel store pick.
That's a bonus pick. 15-year Whistle Pig.
Yes, I mean you can get the normal one. It's 90 proof, but if you find a store pick, it's going to be a $250 bottle. But it's when I go downstairs and I don't want to think about what I want to drink, I just literally pull down one of those bottles, pour it, be done.
That's a great one. I'll probably do the Basil Hayden dark rye.
Okay. Just because it's easy?
Yeah, it's easy. You can drink it neat. Put a little bit of water or ice in it if you want.
Maybe add a little ice and tell Adley it's ginger ale. Mm-hmm. I think she could sniff that one out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for doing this. We have pictures of all this on the YouTube channel. We have links to all these online in the show notes. And if you were looking for financial advice today, I'm sorry you didn't get it. But hey, a happy gift giver, or giving a good gift or receiving a good gift is also part of success, I guess, in some sense. So our theme here already here is financial success is intentional, and so many of our clients and people that talk to us on a regular basis are successful. So take time this holiday season to slow down. Drink responsibly, of course,
Yes.
and make sure that you're spending time with family, and maybe sharing some of these picks with them. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about bourbons, don't call Wiser Wealth Management. I'm sure these guys will be happy to opine on the comments on the YouTube channel. You can make comments below the video. Thank you. I have not been drinking. Yes. You make comments below the video, and we'll try to monitor those. We look forward to getting back to our normal schedule next week. And thanks, guys, for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This episode was produced and edited by Ken Hoadley.